All right, welcome to another Deep Dives, everybody. Today we're going to be taking a look at
Buddhism.
Buddhism. Yeah, exactly. We've
Yep.
got some really cool stuff from this podcast
Mm-hmm.
called Beyond Monotheism,
Mm.
Buddhism's unique perspective on divinity.
Okay.
And we're really going to be looking at why this tradition doesn't have a belief in just one God.
Right.
And I think what people will find really interesting about this is that Buddhism suggests
Mm-hmm.
that the power to kind of achieve liberation
Right.
comes from within, not from some all-powerful being somewhere else.
It's a very different perspective.
Yeah. It is.
And, for a lot of us, especially in the West, I
Yeah.
mean, the idea of one God,
Yeah.
this monotheistic idea, this is
Yeah.
Christianity, Islam, Judaism,
Yeah.
it's so central to
It really is.
so many people's understanding. It's
Yeah.
like, how else would it be?
Right, exactly. So Buddhism offers something completely different.
Yeah.
It's what they call, and this is kind of a new word for me, non-theistic.
Mhm.
Now, that doesn't mean that they're denying
Yeah.
a higher power altogether. It's more nuanced than that.
Yeah. It's not as simple as just saying there's no God.
Right.
It's
yeah.
a different framework.
Yeah. Yeah. So to kind of get into that,
Uh-huh.
I think we need to go back to like
Yeah.
the very beginnings, right?
Mm.
Like the origins of Buddhism.
Yeah, absolutely. Go back to India.
Yeah.
4th century BCE.
Wow.
A lot going on.
Yeah. What was going on back then that led to this
Oh, there was
Yeah.
so much philosophical and spiritual.
ferment? Okay.
Yeah, it was like everybody was really searching for answers,
Right.
to life's big questions, especially about suffering.
Interesting.
But instead of, saying, okay, well, there must be some creator deity out there
Right.
who's going to fix this for me.
Yeah.
They turned inward.
Mm.
They said, okay, we have to understand the
Yeah.
nature of suffering
Right.
and then find a way to liberation
From within.
from within.
Okay.
So it was less about like who
Yeah.
created the world
Yeah.
and more about how to like live in it
Yeah. And be at peace with it.
and be at peace. Exactly.
Yeah. So this kind of brings us to Siddhartha Gautama,
Right.
the Buddha.
Really?
His journey was really not about proving or disproving God.
Right.
It was about this really deep internal exploration
Yes,
to find a way to transcend suffering. Right.
absolutely. It's all about going deep within.
Yeah, and I think that that's really key to understanding how Buddhism sees the whole idea of divine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the stuff that you gave me, there's this episode
Yeah.
called Why Buddhism Doesn't Believe in One God. So
Mhm.
if there's no God to guide us, how does Buddhism approach like that need for direction in life?
That is such a great question.
Yeah.
And I think this is where the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path really come into play.
Right.
It's like they provide this practical framework, this guidebook almost,
Okay.
for how to understand suffering.
Right.
And then navigate all the
challenges.
of life. Exactly.
But what are your thoughts on these teachings?
Well, I mean, you've really hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
It's all about personal responsibility.
okay.
It's about self-awareness, ethical conduct, mental discipline.
Right.
It's not about waiting for some deity to swoop in and
Just save you.
save you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what really strikes me
Yeah.
is just this emphasis on taking responsibility.
Yes.
You know, it's like, okay, I need to understand myself, the world around me,
Yeah.
and I need to make the choices that lead to
Right.
liberation,
Uh,
inner peace,
absolutely. You cultivate that inner light.
inner light.
Yeah. And there's even that saying, be a lamp unto yourself.
Oh, wow.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. But this kind of leads into like a common misconception about
Yes.
gods in Buddhism.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is something that you touched upon in the materials you shared with me.
Mm-hmm.
While Buddhism doesn't have that belief in a single
Right.
all-powerful God,
Yeah.
it doesn't completely deny that deities exist.
Yeah.
So how do they fit into?
Yeah, it's fascinating how they're perceived. It's like they occupy a different role
Okay.
in the whole cosmic hierarchy.
So what I'm gathering is that
Yeah.
these deities aren't seen as creators
Right.
or this ultimate authority.
Not in the way
Yeah.
you might see in monotheistic traditions.
Okay, yeah.
It's more like they're beings that exist within
Samsara.
some sort. Exactly. Which, for those who aren't familiar, this is that cycle of birth, death, and rebirth.
Yeah.
It's like this continuous flow of existence
Yeah.
driven by karma,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically like cause and effect.
Okay.
And so even the gods
Wow.
in this Buddhist context, they're not exempt from this.
Really?
They're not exempt. Their existence is impermanent.
Wow.
And they're not seen as the ultimate source of liberation.
So if these gods aren't the ultimate power, what is?
Well, the ultimate aim in Buddhism
Yeah.
is enlightenment,
Okay.
nirvana.
Well,
It's not about seeking happiness from outside things or
Really?
even worshiping a god.
Hmm.
It's about cultivating this deep inner peace
Yeah.
and wisdom.
that transcends all of the...
Yes,
Yeah.
that transcends all of the ups and downs of life.
So it sounds like it's more of a state of being
Yeah,
than like a destination.
that's such a beautiful way to put it.
Okay.
It really is. And this brings us back
Yeah,
to
yeah.
that concept of non-theism.
Okay.
Buddhism isn't about proving or disproving God. It's
Yeah.
about recognizing the impermanence of all things,
Yeah.
even the divine,
Yeah.
and focusing on that path,
That inner liberation.
that inner liberation. Exactly.
So it seems like Buddhism kind of occupies a space that's totally different from like
Right.
atheism and theism.
Exactly.
It's like a unique framework
Mm-hmm.
for understanding how to exist
Yeah.
and finding a way to enlightenment.
It really is a unique path. And even though, we talk about being lamps unto ourselves,
All right.
it's not nihilistic either.
Yeah.
It's not saying that nothing matters.
Right.
It's saying that true liberation comes from within.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from understanding that we're all connected, and then from cultivating compassion and wisdom.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, beautiful teaching.
This has been a really insightful deep dive
It has.
into Buddhism's unique perspective on all this, right? I mean, it challenges us to think differently about how we relate to the world,
It does.
both internally and externally.
Yeah, and if Buddhism is encouraging us to be these lamps unto ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
what is that light showing you?
Wow.
How can you cultivate that inner wisdom and compassion in your own life?
Hmm.
That's something to think about.
It really is.
It is.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Absolutely.
We hope you found it
Illuminating.
illuminating. Yes. And we hope that you're inspired to explore all of this further.
Me too.
Is that-
About